forgotten desert, a nation under occupation, waiting for change. This story begins in the remote desert region of Algeria, where nothing can be seen for miles except dry, barren land. This is the period when Algeria is under French rule. France has occupied the country for decades, and tensions continue to rise across the region. We are introduced to Daru, a school teacher who teaches children in an isolated school nestled among the hills. At the same time, the people of Algeria want to win back their freedom from France. Fear and tension fill the air everywhere. One man chooses kindness, while a conflict grows around him. In the middle of this unrest, we see the small school where Daru teaches. He studies with the children, plays with them, and even provides food to their families whenever they need help. The people in this village are extremely poor. Daru was once a soldier in the French army, but he left that life behind. Now, he wants to be a good man and help others. It does not matter to him that the children he teaches are Algerian, especially during a time when tensions between the French army and Algerian rebels are growing more dangerous every day. While others choose sides, Daru wants no part of the war. People are killing one another across the country. Daru simply wants to do good. He wants to educate children and stay away from the conflict consuming the land. A routine morning suddenly brings an unexpected visitor. Daru wants nothing to do with the fighting between the French army and the local rebels. One morning, while teaching his students, he glances out the window and notices a French police officer riding toward the school on horseback. Behind him is a man tied up and being brought to the building. The officer is an old friend of Daru's. Stepping outside, Daru asks who the prisoner is. The officer explains that the man is a criminal who killed his cousin over a small amount of wheat. He says he has orders to take the prisoner to another town where he will stand trial and receive his punishment. A simple favor turns into a burden Daru never wanted. The officer tells Daru he wants him to escort the prisoner the rest of the way. Rebellion is spreading everywhere. French citizens are being attacked, and he is too exhausted to continue the journey himself. But Daru immediately refuses. He says that if he takes the man there, he could end up being killed before receiving a fair hearing. Besides, he is a school teacher. This is not his job. The officer leaves, but the problem stays behind. The police officer tells him he has become far too friendly with the local people. He says Daru should be standing with his own side instead. The prisoner remains, and the situation becomes more complicated. The officer warns Daru that the French authorities are already watching him and that his school could be shut down. He insists that Daru must take the prisoner to the next town and hand him over to the police. Daru asks whether the prisoner speaks French. The officer says no. Soon after, he rides away, leaving Daru alone with the prisoner. Kindness reveals a truth no one expected. Daru treats the prisoner with respect. He shares food with him and allows him to sit beside him. Later that night, when the prisoner becomes sick, Daru gives him medicine and takes care of him. Then the prisoner reveals something surprising. He tells Daru that he actually does speak French. He simply never spoke to the police officer, which made everyone assume he could not understand the language. He explains that he once worked on a French farm. The prisoner asks if Daru is taking him to the other town. Daru tells him he is not taking him anywhere. But before either man can decide what comes next, danger arrives. A group of rebels suddenly appears and demands that the prisoner be handed over to them. Daru immediately pulls out his pistol and rifle. A fight breaks out, and during the confrontation, a horse is killed. The attackers disappear, but the danger is far from over. After that, all of the rebels flee the area. Daru is frustrated now. He turns to the prisoner and tells him to leave before those men come back again. The prisoner says that if he leaves alone, he will be killed. He says it would be better if Daru takes him to town and turns him over to the authorities. The prisoner asks for surrender, but Daru refuses to choose for him. Daru says he is not going to do that. Instead, he tells the prisoner to head south. After about a day of travel, he will reach the town he wants to go to. But as the prisoner starts walking away, Daru realizes he should go with him because his life is in danger. Violence is everywhere, and traveling alone could get him killed. Daru gathers his supplies and sets out with the prisoner. Along the way, they are stopped by 3 Frenchmen who ask where he is taking the prisoner. Daru tells them he is taking him to the city so the authorities can handle his case and put him on trial. A personal grudge suddenly threatens to turn into an execution. One of the men believes the prisoner is responsible for killing all of his livestock. The anger on his face makes it clear that he wants revenge. The truth comes out, but not everyone is willing to believe it. Daru explains that the prisoner did not kill anyone's livestock. He says the prisoner killed his own cousin, but the man refuses to believe him. He is determined to kill the prisoner anyway. Daru pulls out his rifle and holds the man at gunpoint. He tells him that everything he said is true. After a tense moment, the 3 men back down and leave. The road ahead grows quieter, but the threat remains close. The 2 continue their journey. After a while, Daru senses that someone else is nearby. The prisoner suddenly says they're coming and warns that they need to hide immediately. Both of them take cover behind a cluster of rocks. It turns out these are the same rebels who attacked Daru's school earlier. They are relatives of the prisoner. They want him dead because he killed their brother over a small amount of wheat, and now they want revenge for his death. They escape detection, but the journey keeps getting harder. Fortunately, the men never spot them and eventually move on. Daru and the prisoner continue across the rocky terrain. Later, they stop for water, but that's when an Algerian rider suddenly appears on horseback. He is one of the rebels, and the moment he sees them, both men raise their guns. A single mistake turns a standoff into a deadly moment. Daru tells the man to lower his weapon. He says they are not enemies, but the rebel refuses to listen and fires at him. At that exact moment, the horse jerks its head, causing the shot to miss. With no other choice, Daru fires back to save his own life. The Algerian man is killed. His death hits Daru hard because violence is the last thing he wants. He never wanted to kill anyone. The cost of survival weighs heavily on Daru's conscience. Angry and frustrated, Daru turns to the prisoner and says that all of this happened because because of him. He calls him a coward and says he has no honor. The prisoner does not take offense. He understands that Daru is speaking out of anger and exhaustion. Together, they bury the dead man. The prisoner picks up the fallen rifle and offers it to Daru. Daru tells him to keep it instead, and the two continue their journey. Nature closes in as the long journey pushes forward. Strong winds begin sweeping across the landscape. Before long, rain starts falling as well. They need shelter. Earlier, they passed an abandoned village, so they head back in that direction. Soon they reach one of the empty houses, where they take shelter for the night. Inside, they build a fire and warm themselves against the cold. The prisoner's crime hides a tragedy far deeper than anyone expected. The prisoner explains that the wheat his cousin tried to steal was meant for his parents, his brothers, his sisters, and the rest of his family. If his cousin had taken it, they would have starved to death. That is why he felt forced to kill him. But now his cousins are hunting him because his family cannot afford to pay blood money. An ancient custom leaves him with no path to escape. Blood money is the payment given to a victim's family after a killing in order to receive forgiveness. Since the prisoner's family cannot pay it, his cousins want to find him and kill him. It is a local custom, an unwritten law that nobody can avoid. If his cousins kill him, then his younger brother will be expected to take revenge afterward. But his brother is still a child. The prisoner is the oldest son in the family, and he does not want that cycle to continue. To end the feud, he is willing to sacrifice his own life. He says there is only one way to stop everything. He wants to die at the hands of the French authorities, so that neither his cousins can kill him, nor his brother be forced to seek revenge later. That is why he wants to reach the city as quickly as possible, and surrender himself to the French authorities, bringing the blood feud to an end once and for all. Daru asks whether his parents know about this decision. The prisoner says they do not. By now, Daru finally understands the prisoner's situation completely. Morning never comes peacefully in a land already torn apart by war. The two spend the night there, but before they can leave the next morning, a group of rebels arrives and takes them hostage. The rebels are armed, leaving them with no choice. They are taken back to a rebel camp. There, Daru unexpectedly reunites with a man from his military days. Back when Daru was a major, this man served in his unit. Now, he has become a rebel. Old loyalty survives, even when the world has changed. The man knows Daru is a good person. He knows Daru has always helped the local people. Because of that, he orders their hands untied. Moments later, they learn that French army forces are approaching. Everyone quickly abandons the camp and moves into nearby caves. Daru's old friend tells him that sooner or later, he will have to choose a side. Either he stands with the French army or with the rebels. But Daru refuses to join either side. A friendship remains, even beneath the shadow of war. His friend tells him that he should leave and return to France. Daru answers that he was born here. His parents are buried in this land, and he cannot live anywhere else. The man looks at him and says he loves him like a brother. But if one day he is forced to kill him, he will do it. After saying that, he walks away. That night, Daru and the prisoner sit together in silence. In the middle of chaos, two men show the losses they carry. Daru tells the prisoner that he once married an Algerian woman, but she is no longer alive. He says he misses her deeply. The prisoner replies that he has never been married. The next morning, French army forces launch an attack on the rebel camp. Many rebels are killed, while the survivors try to escape through the rear. But another attack follows almost immediately, and nearly all of the remaining rebels are wiped out. The battle rages on, as survival becomes the only goal. Daru takes the prisoner behind a large rock and hides there. Meanwhile, his old friend manages to escape. Once the fighting settles, Daru steps out in front of the French soldiers and explains that he is not working with the rebels. He tells them that both he and the prisoner were being held hostage. He also explains that he was once a major in the army, and that he is taking the prisoner to a nearby city where he intends to hand him over to the authorities. The truth is confirmed, but the desert still waits ahead. The lieutenant in command verifies everything over the radio. He learns that Daru truly was a major in the army. Because of that, he allows both men to continue on their way. And so, the two of them keep moving forward through the unforgiving desert, a place where death waits behind every step. A familiar city appears, bringing back memories Daru never forgot. Soon, they arrive at a town called Virginia. The moment Daru sees it, he stops. He becomes emotional and tells the prisoner that this is where he was born. He explains that he is not actually French. His parents came from Spain and settled there, and that is where his family stayed. Because of that, he always felt like an outsider among the French. The two enter the town where Daru grew up. They stop at a bar whose owner he used to know many years ago. At first, the owner does not recognize him. 3 decades disappear the moment an old face is remembered. Daru explains that he used to come there often when he was a teenager. After hearing that, the owner finally recognizes him. Daru spends some time there having a drink and resting. Later, the two continue their journey. Along the way, the prisoner hands Daru a coin and tells him it is his lucky coin. He asks him to keep it forever. Daru does not want to accept it at first, but the prisoner insists, so he finally takes it. The end of the journey is now clearly visible ahead of them. Soon, they can see the place where the prisoner is supposed to turn himself in to the authorities. Looking at him, Daru says that he now has 2 choices. One path leads to judgment, and the other leads to freedom. Daru tells him he can either surrender himself to the authorities, or take another route and disappear among the nomads. These are people with no permanent home, who travel from place to place. If he goes with them, nobody will ever be able to find him. The prisoner says that if he escapes, the authorities will come after Daru instead. Daru replies that it is his problem, not the prisoners. After that, the prisoner stands there quietly, thinking about his decision, while Daru watches from a distance. For a moment, everything depends on a single choice. Finally, the prisoner chooses the road that leads toward the nomads. In other words, he decides not to surrender himself to the authorities. Seeing that decision fills Daru with happiness. Afterward, Daru returns to his school. The next morning, all of the children arrive for class. They are excited to see him because everyone cares deeply about him. A quiet goodbye becomes the final chapter of his journey. Daru tells the children that this will be his last class there. After today, he will be leaving that place forever. Hearing this makes the children emotional, but Daru has no other choice. If he stays, the authorities will eventually arrest him because he never handed the prisoner over. They already suspect that he supports the local people who are locked in conflict with the French soldiers. In the end, Daru simply watches the children walk away. And with that, the story comes to an end. Some people survive the violence, but they never truly escape it. The scars no one can see are often the ones that last the longest. And maybe that's what makes this story so haunting. If stories like this stay with you long after they end, stay with HOPKART Peru, because some stories don't fade away. They follow you into the silence.